Hey everybody, Spiral here, and today I'm going to talk about the Faraway Paladin, maybe some of the most interesting vanilla fantasy anime out there right now. Let's jump in. So, apart from Konosuba and Re:Zero, the Isekai genre doesn't really do it much for me, which is strange, because I'm a huge fantasy fan. I mean, this whole bookshelf back here is covered in fantasy books. And not even just books, I'm into fantasy anime and fantasy video games, all of that. Dungeons and Dragons and all the tabletop games alike. What really bums me out is the Isekai genre just really isn't for me, which sucks, because I spent my whole formative years growing up like reading the Dragons of Autumn Twilight and hoping that literally anyone else was watching the Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog, because I don't think anyone but me watched that show, and it was awesome. I spent my whole childhood wishing for more people to be more into fantasy than just me. And I know people were, but at least in my circle, no one really was. And so now the monkey's paw has kind of curled its gross little hand, and fantasy isekai is maybe the biggest thing in the anime scene for the past like 5 years, and I just don't really like it. That is, until the Faraway Paladin came slow burning its way into my life. It does some special stuff, and I just want to take some time to talk about it today in a quick little review, maybe a little bit of a deeper dive. So, as of the time of writing this, the show only has about 5 episodes out right now. It does a lot of things that are real different from the standard isekai formula, while still keeping a lot of the same trappings, but not using them in such an egregious way. And the show is cool, don't get me wrong, but on paper, it shouldn't be as interesting to me as it is. So I hope in making this video, maybe I'll be able to extrapolate kind of what makes this show so cool to me and why I keep like tuning in like day of release every week. And also maybe get a few of you folks to watch it, because it had a bit of hype at the beginning of the season, but it's kind of fallen off, and I think it deserves a bit more love than it's currently getting. So I think kind of the best descriptor for the Faraway Paladin that I can give is that it's like a really big bowl of like really, really good vanilla ice cream. And I know that kind of sounds like a backhanded compliment, and it is in some ways, but vanilla ice cream is my favorite dessert on the planet, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. It is the standard for a reason. So the show follows Will. He's a spunky young lad who was isekai'd into another world upon dying in Earthworld. He doesn't really remember much of his old life. All he remembers is that he was a garbage person, a waste of human skin. So upon being born into this new world, he kind of decides to take the opposite tact, which is be a good person, which is a nice change of pace from Konosuba and Re:Zero, where everyone is just trash all the time, basically. I mean, Super is okay eventually, but whatever, regardless. So the show follows Will in his journey to become a paladin. He has a found family, the people who found him, essentially, when he was reborn into this world. But they're not your kind of standard trio of characters that you'd find in this sort of thing, at least not yet. There's 3 characters. There's Blood, who's just this hulking skeleton man, just giant, massive skeleton warrior. Then there's Mary, who's the kindly mummy priestess of the group, who serves as a mother figure for Will, alongside Blood as the father figure. And finally, there's Gus, who is the grandfather, essentially, of the group. He's a crotchety old ghost with a heart of gold that does everything he can to teach Will how to become this mage that he wants him to be. I think that the dynamic that these 4 have, at least in the early 5 episodes of the show, is beautiful. They form this beautiful found family, a mother, father, grandfather, son, and they all raise each other up, bring each other up with Will as the focus, and make him a better person than they seemingly were in their past lives, which the show hints at a little bit in the early stages, but I'll get into a bit more later. I think the episode of Will and Blood getting drunk with each other for the first time is particularly emblematic of this. It really gives you that father-son dynamic of like a dad taking his son out for his first beer sort of thing, and it just warms my heart in a way that I honestly can't explain. And so all the interpersonal relationships are really cool. They give the weight a lot of levity and a lot of love and a lot of heart that it may not have had otherwise. But I think the thing that really keeps bringing me back, at least in these early stages, is the world building and the lore that the show sets up. The Faraway Paladin is built off of a light novel series, which a lot of these isekai are. But I think that the Faraway Paladin uses this to build itself up higher than a lot of its contemporaries. It makes itself a solid base block ground level to build off of right from the start. The show begins with a lore dump, a huge lore dump, talking about the gods and the pantheon of this world and who these gods are, what they represent, and all of it serves to really contextualize the rest of the show going forward, given it's a show about a paladin, and if you know anything about D&D style paladins, they are all about enforcing a god's will or representing that divine being in a positive light generally. And then a few episodes later, a lot of this big world meta lore context about all the gods and stuff is followed up by the actual recent history of the world. Recent, I say recent, it's been quite a few hundred years. But our three parental figures were the ones to actually defeat the Demon King. They, at the cost of their own humanity, they sacrificed themselves to stop essentially an unstoppable force. A Demon King who, as he was damaged, would create allies out of his own skin and blood. But alternatively, he also had a sword which healed him. So he could just create wave after wave after wave of unending hordes of enemies just to take over the world. And our three parental figures were the ones to defeat him. A lot of this is, again, given context to the world. And it doesn't specifically say this is going to be relevant later. It asks the audience to remember this and kind of internalize it and kind of find out where it slots in down the road. It's really cool. It feels like some of the classics of the fantasy genre. It feels like Wheel of Time. It feels like Lord of the Rings. It feels like the Stormlight Archive. These things are a bit higher brow than what this show might be going for currently, but it echoes the sentiment and the feeling, and it just gives me the high fantasy classic vibes that I crave from the isekai genre that I've not gotten anywhere else. This focus on lore and world building is what kind of serves to differentiate the Faraway Paladin from your current seasonal, I blanked my blank in a different world, whatever that may be. And I do want to take a moment to mention the magic system. I think the magic system is really cool, really interesting. Apparently it's very reminiscent of Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea fantasy, which I have not read, but I've heard very good things, and I do plan to one day. The magic system itself is a words of power, essentially, based magic system where some god handed down the words to humanity, and they can now speak these words to cast spells. Things like Accelerate or Spider Net or something like that, which can make someone speed up or drop a spider net on someone. That's pretty vanilla fare. Magic words, ooh. But I think what's really cool is the ability that these words can be written out in the air with fingers. For example, if a caster can't speak for whatever reason, they can use their finger to write out a spell, and the spell will cast as if they said it. This is a much more interesting prospect, but where this gets really cool, and I'm really excited to see where this goes, is the ability for someone to cast multiple spells at once with their mouth and hands. So we see a character, we see Gus the Ghost casting 3 spells at once as he's writing and chanting words, and all these spells then intertwine to create a different spell, different effect. They can interact with each other. It's really, really cool. I think mix and match magic systems are awesome, and I can't wait to see where this goes. I hope they push it further. I hope there is more casting abilities, more spells, different ways for them to interact. I want to see where Will goes with this. And the last thing I really want to mention is the presentation. The art is pretty standard industry fare. It's not much to write home about. There are some very nice background pieces. Character designs are fun and look interesting, and it animates fine. You're not going to get a whole lot of Sakuga. You're not going to get a whole lot of big, I'll see this in an AMV in 20 minutes on YouTube energy. But the music, whew, the music is it's real good. It is really good. I think that the OP is maybe like the best descriptor of this. The OP has these rushed, fast, anxious guitar chords that kind of get you going, get you excited. And then on top of that, you get these really high, beautiful Celtic flutes and violin notes that just push your surge for adventure. You want to go out and you want to find what's over that next hill. You want to go on your Tolkien-esque hero's journey. Joseph Campbell will be proud of this opening. And then finally, there's some beautiful vocals in it by this person. I can't say that. I have no idea how to say that. It's gorgeous. It is. Go listen to it on its own. If you're about to do some raiding in an MMO or maybe some questing, play some D&D, will get you in the mood, no problem. It is beautiful. In short, the Far Away Paladin is a blast. I really want to see where it goes. It gives me the vibes of the literary fantasy classics. Will it reach those heights? Honestly, probably not. It's a seasonal anime. Maybe the light novels do, but at least the anime, unless it goes further, probably won't. But what I do think is if this show gets popular enough, it could serve to inspire other anime studios, light novel writers, manga writers, all that, to maybe attempt to take a shot at standard fantasy. Your main character doesn't have to be from another world, and I know Will is, but it almost doesn't feel like it sometimes. Standard fantasy is the way of the future, even though it's set in the past. So stupid. Standard fantasy is an interesting, beautiful genre. I think that the Western world has adopted it with the success of Game of Thrones, and even though it died, Wheel of Time is coming out soon. There's a Shannara TV show. There's a lot of love for fantasy in the Western world. I hope that it continues and moves into some of my favorite genres like anime and manga. Regardless, go check out the Far Away Paladin. It's really early on, 5, 6, probably 7 or 8 episodes by the time this gets out, and it's a fun watch. It really gets your jonesing for adventure going, and it's on Crunchyroll. You have Crunchyroll, you probably do. If not, I'm sure there's some other websites out there that you could go see it on. Regardless, go give it a shot. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoy the new format, like this new look sort of thing, and I hope I'm not too awkward on camera because this is like my first time really shooting myself, so I hope it came out all right. Regardless, thank you all for watching. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll be back with the next one here soon. Probably will be about Tactop Destiny, which is another show that I think is really cool this season. I'll be working on that here shortly, and should hopefully be out not too long after this one. Either way, thanks for watching. As always, it's appreciated. Sincerely, your friend Spiral. Hey everybody, thanks again for watching. It's always appreciated. If you liked the video, please feel free to subscribe or throw a like or share it or do all that cool stuff. That would be greatly appreciated. Video came in a little bit later than I intended, but you know, I'm glad I got it out and I got more stuff in the pipes. And also that Tactop video may not be next. That show kind of lost me. Either way, again, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe and show your friends and all that cool stuff. Catch you in the next one. Thanks.